recording. So welcome, Sevasti. Welcome into the interview corner of Breakthrough Coaching Group.
Thank you so much, Albana, for inviting me along today to take part in your podcast.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I value you so much. We have been working together, and I like your personality. I like your attitude, your grit, and your passion for the work. And I thought you'd bring value to this group, sharing your thoughts about success and failure. So at first, I'd like you to introduce yourself, please. So who are you, Sevasti, for the group members?
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. So my name is Sevasti Wong. For those of you that may know a little bit about me already, who may look me up online, I'm a global managing director at 𝐒𝐥𝐻. I've been working at 𝐒𝐥𝐻 just over 2 decades, and I have been serving clients in our comms, media and technology sectors during that time. I also look after our strategy and consulting agenda on one of our largest clients, and I look after our internal talent and leadership agenda for around 20,000 practitioners across the globe. For what you might not know about me is that I live in London. I'm a godmother to 3 incredible goddaughters who are 5, 9 and 10. And as you can imagine, they have loads of questions about the world that they're growing up in, especially in the age of COVID and in 2020. And I'm also involved in a number of initiatives promoting and supporting next-gen women and BAME leaders, so that hopefully they have a little bit more support and guidance than perhaps you and I had, Albana, as we were coming up through our careers. And last but very much not least, I sit on the Diversity Council for TM Forum, where we look for more meaningful ways to increase diversity in its broader sense across the comms industry.
Wow, brilliant. Great activities, great world to be in, and great contribution of yours, Sevasti. So yeah, you explained the why I respect and value you. So I'd be curious now to understand from you how you have experienced success and failure within your professional life, in your career.
Well, contrary to what many of us see online, on social, in LinkedIn or on Twitter, we don't glide seamlessly from one career milestone to the other, or from one major life event to another. Each of us has potential for both success and failure within us, and they visit us many, many times throughout our lives. And in fact, in my mind, success and failure are the 2 sides to the same coin. And it's really the biggest difference is how we talk about our detours, our failures, and our mistakes, and how they become part of our narrative. Because as you and I both know, there isn't a section for our failures on LinkedIn, for example.
Wonderful, wonderful point. That's true. That's true. But yeah, so how you think about failures, how you experience them, and what they brought into your life.
Well, let me perhaps share a little bit more about my personal story, and I'll tell you 2 versions of the story, so you can hopefully see how both success and failure have come into my life. So I'm half Greek, half Chinese. I was born in London. When I was 3.5, my parents got divorced, and I moved with my mum back to Athens, where I attended the British Embassy School until I was 12, before I then returned to the UK to continue my schooling. My mum, who's one of my biggest role models, planted a lot of self-belief in my head. And so I always knew that I would be successful by doing just enough. So I had just enough GCSE results to get to do the A levels that I wanted, just enough A-level points to get into university, just enough work at university to get a 2-1 degree from university and go on and start my career. I was the first woman in my family to go to university. I studied psychology and modern languages at Birmingham University before working for a small marketing consultancy for 2.5 years before my best friend persuading me to move to Accenture and start my management consulting career. And at Accenture, I've been blessed with the most incredible career. So within the first 2 years, I had registered 22 CRM patents with the US Patent Office. In 2010, I was awarded our Most Inspirational Leaders Award. And then in 2011, which was the first year that I made Managing Director, my team was also awarded with the Best Delivery Award for accordion implementation that I had implemented at one of my very favorite telcos that is close to both of our hearts. And then in 2015, probably my biggest achievement to date, I was awarded with a Businesswoman of the Year award in the Asian Women of Achievement Awards in the UK. And that opened a whole host of doors for me, both professionally and personally. And I was sponsored by Accenture to go on the fellowship program for the International Women's Forum, where I was sent to both Harvard Business School and 𝐤𝐸𝐴𝐷. And my career, took off stratospherically from 2015 to 2020. So that sounds great, doesn't it? That sounds like what you read on LinkedIn. Most people would be giving us a 2 thumbs up, a 10 out of 10. But I think there's a different version.
Yeah, that reminds me, have you seen, there is a picture there in internet, there is the tip of iceberg, that is the success.
Exactly.
And the part of iceberg underwater is now what I'm looking to listen about. I'm so curious, what is underwater though?
Exactly. Well, let me share a little bit of that side of the story. So during my school days, I was absolutely terrible with numbers. I had extra lessons for my maths GCSE and for my maths qualifications to be able to do the basic maths qualification that was required for university. My worst subject was chemistry. I remember for my mock chemistry exam getting 21%. In my mock results, and my chemistry teacher taking me to one side and asking me whether I hadn't realized that it was an open book exam. And I had to admit that I knew it was an open book exam, but I didn't know which pages the results might be on. After university, I talked about the marketing consultancy I worked for. I'm going to let you into a little secret. I actually never wanted to become a management consultant, but my heart was set on becoming an advertising executive. And I applied to over 20 advertising agencies in London during the time I worked for that marketing consultancy. And as you can imagine, or maybe can't imagine, I received 20 rejection letters. So it was the days pre-digital and pre-email. I used to keep the pile of rejection letters by my bed. And every time I'd get another one, I would try to tell myself it was one step closer to getting my dream job somewhere, and that the right organization would pick me. Then when I think about my career at Accenture, I have had an extraordinary time here, but I've also had many, many bumps in the road and many, many detours. So everything from making a mistake and sending an email to a client that meant that a program that I was hoping to work on and building up to for 2 years evaporated overnight, through to signing a statement of work very early on in my career as a manager that had a clause in it that made it almost impossible to deliver, to being on the bid team for one of our largest and most I guess, market impacting programs of work that ended up with us securing a procurement ban on one of our clients for several months. And that's just the mistakes and the failures I've had from a work perspective. If I think about life, I can't ride a bicycle, which, you know.
Wow, I can't believe it.
Which everyone...
How does it come?
Exactly. So everyone wonders why I can't ride a bicycle. And so 5 years ago, I plucked up the courage and asked my mum why I was never taught how to ride a bicycle. And she told me that I was fairly chubby, like fairly fat as a child. And therefore that was the reason. So I've kind of gone from having, you know, 30 years of feeling an insecurity about not being able to ride a bicycle to now thinking that maybe I was a victim of childhood obesity. So I don't know if that is any better. But there's definitely something with me and driving. So I'm an absolutely awful driver as well. So I always say, if you see a dark grey Fiat 500 and you're walking around London, then please stay on the pavements because I'm an awful, awful driver. And then 2 more things I wanted to highlight. The first is physicality. So what do you do when your physicality does not lend itself to presence, and yet you have chosen a profession and a role that means that you need to make an impact when you walk into a room, when you're presenting at, you know, in a boardroom, or when you're presenting to large audiences. I am 1 meter 53 without my heels on. And so, you know, despite the fact that there are many challenges in 2020, one of the blessings is sitting down like this and talking over Zoom. We're all the same height. But it's something that, you know, when I speak or think about my male colleagues, they have never, ever had to worry about their physicality. And last, but very much not least, mental health. So from 2011, I suffer from anxiety. And from 2011 to 2014, I had quite a lot of panic attacks, especially when I had to stand up in front of a crowd or present like I'm doing today, and I have to introduce myself and say my name. But thankfully, that hasn't happened today, speaking to your good self, Albana.
Wow, wow. Thank you very much, Sevasti, for sharing with us. I mean, I'm fascinated listening people. So beyond the LinkedIn front page, when I listen their stories, I'm really touched. I'm really fascinated by discovering this iceberg part under the water. You're human. At the end, you're human. And thank you very much for sharing these treasures with us. Yeah, I definitely would say you're a gorgeous lady. For whatever tall you are, you're a source of energy, positive energy. So you can feel it. Anybody around you would be touched from this energy, contagious, positive energy. So great. Thank you very much for sharing both sides of the coin for you. But definitely what we see, you are a successful lady for all the things you have been capable to overcome. So now I'd like to understand. So you had a journey to reach up to here with ups and downs. And so now you're definitely a successful lady who has the confidence to show up and to be that gorgeous and shiny as you are. So I'd like to understand from you, what are the lessons you took from all this journey with ups and downs that you'd like to share with the audience here, with the members of this group, so we can lift them up somehow and give some hope?
I think the path we set out on gets disrupted many, many times. And sometimes we feel we are in control of the ride and we are happy and confident. And sometimes our ability to keep up is difficult and we want to stop the ride and get off. I think the first piece of advice would be that embrace failure. There are many, many learnings during the times that things don't quite go as planned. And I'm a really strong believer, looking back at the first 20 years of my career, that success lies in a pile of mistakes. I think the second thing is, when failure comes knocking, accept that moment as though you have chosen it. Don't try and resist it. There are things that time in your life is trying to teach you and trying to reveal to you. And thankfully, it doesn't last forever. We don't stay in a 20-year cycle of detours and failures and mistakes, thankfully. So success is also coming. And then when we are fortunate enough for success to visit us, there's this beautiful saying, which is stay humble at the mountaintops and steadfast in the valleys. And what it means is that don't get too big for your boots when something really great happens and you feel that you've reached that summit, because that time in our life will also move along and it will become someone else's time to shine and someone else's time to be at that summit and feel that level of success. So it's really important to also stay humble when you're there and try to find ways to help other people.
Wow, great wisdom. Great wisdom, lovely. I like it so much. Yeah, so how mindset has played a role into all this? So how have you been capable to work with your mindset, and how you developed, you evolved to this thinking?
I know you're a huge believer as well, in terms of you can pick your attitude and you can pick your mindset. And I also am a huge believer of that too. I strongly believe that whilst we don't choose all of the experiences that come our way in life, we do have the ability to choose our explanations. And we have the ability to choose the narrative and the story that we tell the world about our journey to date. Very similar to the journey that I described when I was talking through my personal story. I could actually anchor my explanation to either the story of stepped success or stepped failure. So each of us, each and every day when we wake up, we have a series of choices to make. And hopefully when we make positive daily choices and they turn into habits and practices over time, when they compound over a series of years, something that may seem insignificant on a daily basis will hopefully turn into something titanic in terms of outcome and result for each of us over a series of years and decades.
Yeah, so you remind me about the Einstein quote that the eighth wonder of the world is the compounding interest. And it's not only on the financials, but it is on this success, is happiness, is inner peace, whatever you'd like to achieve. great lesson you learned with you shared with us, Sevasti. Now to close, what would be one quote about failure that you'd like to is your favorite quote and you'd like to share with us?
I think the quote that has served me the best over the years is that great things never come from comfort zones. If, like me, you've been sitting in 2020 looking desperately at the horizon and looking for some sign of your comfort zone, I think you should be hopeful and optimistic that the reason why we can't see our comfort zone in 2020 is because there is going to be an almighty compounding interest in the subsequent years, where we're really going to see what these 12 months have really taught us and how much each of us have grown personally and professionally during this time that will accelerate the next chapter of our journey. And I think right now it's just very, very hard to see that when you're living day by day. But I'm hugely optimistic that for all of the listeners of your podcast and for both of us, that we will have some really interesting accelerated journeys in the years to come because of the gifts that this year is providing us with right now.
Wonderful. So this is a hope call for everybody from Sevasti. So I want to recognize you again for being such a wise lady, a gorgeous person, having such a huge positive energy that you're spreading around. Thank you very much for being with us today, Sevasti.
And
Up
thank
to
you
the next.
so much,
All the
Albana.
best.
Thank you. All the very best.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.